Good evening and welcome. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Good evening and welcome to the BPG Clinic. Can you guys hear me? It's Hannah. Good evening to you. Oops, up there. Hello. Good evening. I see a whole bunch of you joining. Good evening. Who's that? Hi, Paul. I can see Freddie's joined. I can see Elizabeth. I can see Karen. Good evening, Henrietta. Hi there. Welcome to the call.
Hello.
Great to see so many of you here this evening. Can you all see my screen? It should have the BPG logo showing. Can you all see my screen?
We're seeing everything that you're doing on your screen.
Oh, are you? Oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, we can see all ourselves.
Okay, let me try again. Hold on, let me try again.
Evening, everybody. Hi, Bethany.
Good evening. Good evening.
Evening, Mike.
How you doing, bro? You all right?
Good, thank you.
Good evening, all.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. Good to see you all. Let's try this again. Okay, can you now see my screen?
It's just loading.
Can you see my screen? Okay, brilliant. And then you can see my screen. Okay. Can you see it yet?
Not
No,
yet.
I can just see you, Hannah.
You can see me, right? Hang on a second. Give me 2 ticks. Let me try that again. Share screen. Give me a second.
Yep, we got it now.
Okay, can you see? Yay, progress. Right, bear with me. Hang on, I need to move my windows. Okay, there we go.
It's gone again. I don't know if you took it down.
Sorry. Now, can you see it now?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. So good evening and welcome to the Black Property Group Deal Clinic. Thanks very much indeed for joining today. If this is your very first time on the call, could you just put a yes in the chat box for me, please? If this is your very first time tonight. If you've been before, welcome back. If this is your very first time, in the chat box, could you just type a yes, please?
Welcome, Karen.
Okay, so there's a couple of you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So for the rest of you, you've all come to a deal clinic before. Okay, brilliant. Could I invite you to tell me where you're calling from tonight? Where are you dialing in from? Which part of London you're in, or if you're outside London, if you're somewhere, please just put in the chat box where you're calling from today, so we can get a feel for who's calling. London,
Come on, I want to see some South
okay, anyone
London.
else?
Croydon,
I'm
yes.
South London.
Yes, big up the South Londoners. I see 2 Croydons pop up. South East, yes, Beth. Yeah, we're running it.
Don't start that, Mike.
Okay. Anyone?
I knew you was going to say something.
I took the bait, all right?
Outside London on the call today? No, we're all from London. Brilliant. And then my next question for Tottenham. Okay, so that's London. Those of you who've been on the call before, but in fact, there's only one person who said that they hadn't been on the call before. Can you tell me, what would you like to get out of the call today? Just think about what would you take away for you this evening that would make you feel, yeah.
Diesel.
Having a little bit of difficulty hearing.
So, can you put yourselves on mute, please? I'd like to invite you all to put yourselves on mute for the moment. But I would like to invite you to put in the chat box, please, what you would like to get out of this today, what you'd like to get out of the Deal Clinic today. Just briefly, whether it's to understand how to find a site, whether it's to understand how to calculate the numbers, whether it's to just talk about a deal that you've got. If you could just pop that into the chat box for me, please. What would you like to get out of this evening? Because obviously I want to make sure that I target it towards what you want to get out of it, just so that we can, the time we have together is actually quite useful if you tell me what it is you'd like to get out of the evening. Okay, just pop that in the chat box for me, please. So while you're doing that, let me introduce you very briefly to the team. So there's 4 of us. There's myself, Hannah, Michael, Paul, and Rosemary. And we're all at different stages in our property journey. Okay, I've had 1 response so far from Karen. Brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Please keep your pointers coming in. And while you're doing that, let me tell you a little bit about us. So obviously our vision is to connect, to share, and to facilitate. So what do I mean by that? Well, really, it's all about connecting with the community and making sure that people in our community, they know that we exist and we're here to help and to serve you, really, to help you to become more familiar with what property investing is all about and how you can grow and or create your own portfolio if that's your dream. So it's all about really sharing knowledge, sharing skills, and sharing contacts, because at the end of the day, you are the sum of the total of your network. And if you're hanging around with people who are sharing the same dreams as you are and sharing the same goals, then you're more likely to achieve your goals. And oftentimes people will rise to the expectations of their peers. So if your peers are property investors, then you're more likely to be hanging around with them and look to see what others in your circle are doing so that you too can grow. And then obviously, ultimately, it's about facilitating wealth creation in order to leave a lasting legacy for yourselves, for your family, for your friends, for those in the know, for those who really want to generate wealth within their individual families. So really, it's about connecting, sharing, and facilitating. Okay, just waiting for a couple more comments to come in while I run through the introduction. So for those of you who are on the call tonight, have you connected with us on our various social media platforms? If you have, could you just pop in the chat box for me, please, which social media you've connected with us on, whether that's Facebook, whether that's our Telegram group, or whether that is through Twitter or some other social media. Just pop that in the chat box for me, please, just so that we can get a feel for where most of you have come from. Excellent. Thank you very much for the feedback that's coming in. Okay, so really, the purpose of the Deal Clinic is to share what we know with you in order to help you to grow. So, question for you. So, as everyone, if you could just pop in the chat box for me, please, how you're connected with us. So that's usually Facebook, Telegram, or Instagram, or Twitter, or even LinkedIn, actually. So I'm just waiting for a couple more responses than that. Okay, so has anyone brought a deal to discuss today? Instagram and Telegram, brilliant. Facebook. Okay, if you have got a deal that you'd like us to help you with this evening, please just pop it in the chat box. Just say, yes, I have a deal. If you could just pop that in the chat box for me, please. Yes, I have a deal, if you have a deal. So while you're typing away there, I'm just going to quickly have a look at what the items are that you've put into the comments. So Karen has said that she'd like advice on funding for buy-to-lets via a limited company. That's an interesting one. To understand what to look for when identifying a deal. Can I just ask, that's someone who's identified as iPhone. Can you just pop your name in the chat box, please? Who is iPhone? What's your name? Gina has said that she's seeking serious investors, partners for leads in the pipeline. Karen, broker connections for business mortgages, wants to keep business within the community. Karen, you'll have to elaborate on that. I'm not sure that I understand what that means. Rose says Rose Ellerton, looking for people to work with by pooling funds. Be very careful of pooling funds. It's against FCA regulations unless you have a license. Okay, let's have a look. Yes, I have a deal. Karen, brilliant. Okay, so Karen, let's have a look at your deal. Do you want to talk about it? So tell us about the deal. If you can unmute yourself and tell us about the deal, please.
Hello, yes. So good evening, everybody. Just a little bit of background. So I currently have a property that's set up as a personal buy-to-let. Obviously, with all the changes that have come through with legislation and no relief on mortgages, going forwards, I want to continue in that vein. So I have found a, oh, I've lost you again, Hannah, volume-wise.
Yeah, you disappeared slightly for me. Right, sorry, Karen, did you say you want to continue in that vein or you don't want to continue in that vein?
I don't want to continue in that vein. So I already have two properties that I'm being subject to the tax in terms of self-assessment. I am a limited company already myself, but that's for my 9 to 5 day job that I do. I had bought both of these properties quite a long time ago, before any of this legislation came, so I wasn't really thinking in that vein. So going forward, also I don't want to sell either of those properties as well, so I have to think about that. But in terms of this particular deal, so I found a auction property that I am very interested in pursuing, and the auction is on the 15th of June. So I just want to be able to get myself set up in a business vein. So I've been doing the research about whether to set up a limited company or to whether to do it that we're through a single purpose vehicle for setting up the properties. And from what I can ascertain, it's better to do a limited company if it's going to be multiple properties that I'm going to be purchasing. With regards to the broker for business, so I have found a broker. However, I just wanted to reach out to our Black Property Group to see if there were any brokers within our community, so that obviously any funds that or fees that I'm having to pay, it's staying within the community as opposed to going to an outside source. But I do also have the deposit from my current limited company. So I also just wanted some advice about
Yeah.
whether it's better to try and raise a business loan to cover that, or whether I should use the money from my current limited company to fund the deposit for the buy-to-let property.
Right. Okay. So in terms of that specific thing, we cannot
Yep.
give you a financial advice. That's the first thing. But what I
Oh,
can say, you can
yep.
reach out to Paul Roberts, the
To Paul.
broker. He's one of the Paul
Oh,
Roberts. So
lovely. Yep.
Paul, I'm sure if you, I think you could probably message him. Alternatively, in private, what I can do is I can contact you if you can't see his details. Paul, are you logged on as Paul? If you want to connect with him, and then he can help you with looking at how to finance that. Yep. But do you want to tell us about the deal? So it's an auction
Yeah.
property.
So it's an auction property. It's a
Yeah.
two-bedroom flat in South London.
Yeah.
It is currently on at £100,000. So in terms of the rental potential in the area, it's pretty good because it should command about, oh, thank you very much. It should command about 1,200 a month. However, it does need to have some renovation work done to it. So I am hoping to take a builder with me on Saturday when I go to do. I've done online viewing, but obviously due to COVID, it's been quite difficult. They have opened back up now, so I should be able to do a site visit on Saturday.
Okay.
So it's
Right. So okay. So the price that it's on the market for,
it's
or that
currently
it's up in the auction for, 100K. So what
yes.
do you think
Obviously,
it's likely to go?
I feel that it's probably going to go for 150.
Right. And how did you come to that?
Looking at other properties in the area.
Okay. And is it in London, did you say?
Yes.
Okay. So it's in London.
Yep.
You think the strike price will be 150K. If it goes for 150K, do the numbers still work for you?
So this is why I need to speak to a broker in terms of the mortgage. So in terms of, because I've tried to have a look on this broker in terms of the interest rates. So going from what I know interest rates are currently with my current properties, then yes, the numbers will work. So current property that I have, which has a mortgage of 270, I'm paying about £400 a month. So it would still work in that vein. What would also sway it is dependent on whether
Sorry.
I am, oh, sorry.
Well, I was trying to make, as you can, if you can you still see
Sorry.
my screen? I'm just trying to make some
Yes.
notes as you the same.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so could you give me those numbers?
So yeah, so in
Could you repeat
terms,
those numbers, please?
yeah, so in terms of one of my current buy-to-lets, which is a two-bedroom flat that I have in Southeast London, it's got a mortgage of 270 on it, and I know that with that current interest rate, the mortgage payments are 369, I think it is. My mortgage payments are on that. So, but again,
Interest only, I'm assuming.
sorry, interest only, yes, yeah. So I've kind of just gone on that kind of basis. However, looking at business buy-to-let mortgages, which I know business mortgages are slightly higher interest rates than normal residential buy-to-let mortgages, that's where I could just do with some, one, some advice, and two, being able to really stack up the numbers and look at what all of the capital outlay is going to be.
Okay, so let's start with, so that's your current buy to let. So those are the
Yep,
numbers.
yep, yep.
Put that to one side. That's just for information. So you think it will go for 150? Have you done local properties in the area, as in comparables? Have they sold for 150 in the last 6 to 9 months or in the last 12 months?
So in the last, when did I look? I looked on Zoopla 2 days ago, and they didn't really have any that were sold in the last 12 months, but in the last 18 months, let me just quickly bring it back up. So I've actually got the page open. I think it went, one of the flats, but this was a 1-bed flat, went for 85,000. So, but that was a longer time ago. Let me just see if I can bring it up while we're on the
Similar
call.
type flat. Is it a conversion?
So this is
or is it a block?
It's a Victorian conversion.
That's a Victorian conversion. Okay.
Yep.
And Victorian conversion. How long is the lease? Or is it freehold?
No, it is. It's a leasehold on this one, and I think there's only about 60 years remaining on the lease, so it's very likely that it's going to have to look at a lease extension.
Okay, it will most certainly need a lease extension at some point.
Yes.
And in an ideal world, you want to make sure that if you own a leasehold property, you either sell it or extend it before you have 80 years left. The fact that it's exceedingly less than that means that's probably one of the reasons why it's in the auction, because it's got a short lease left. So you need to find out how much is it going to cost you to extend the lease. Do you know what that is?
I don't yet know.
You need to absolutely find that out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is absolutely, because if it's 150,000, if it's 30,000, if it's 10,000, if it's 5,000, will those numbers still work for you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a really good shout. Thank you. My current property is a freehold. So yes, thank you for that.
That's all right. The other thing that you need to be aware of is with lease properties, you need, I think it's called a section 42. In essence, I can't remember if the section number is right, but what you need to make sure is, and you will obviously need to check if this is in the legal pack. If it's not in the legal pack, it might be coming, but you'll have to check with the auction house. What you need to make sure is that you are fully aware of any planned works. And when I say planned works, I don't mean like just painting. I mean like complete refurbishment. There might be real structural issues with that particular property. So if it's not in the legal pack, you need to find out and get your solicitor to review the legal pack with you. That's absolutely. Have you got a solicitor that's reviewed the legal pack with you?
So I do have a solicitor, but again, and I have used him many times over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, but I am open if we have solicitors within our community. I would very much rather be shifting in that vein. Same with accountants. I'm really trying to help keep business within the community now.
I'm trying to think of the solicitor that my solicitor, commercial solicitor, but what I would do if I were you with regards to the solicitor, post it in the Telegram group or whichever group you're in with us and say, I'm looking for Y and Z. With regards to an accountant, there are at least 3 that I can think of. I don't think any of them are on the call tonight, but what I would suggest, again, pop it in the Telegram. Are you in the Telegram group, Karen?
No, so I'm on Telegram now, so it would be good if I can either get a link or just...
If you DM me your mobile phone number,
Lovely.
then I'll to the Telegram group, because in the Telegram group, what you can do is you can search for hashtag accountant, hashtag solicitor, hashtag whatever it is you're looking for. And if someone meets that criteria, they will actually come up in the list. Okay.
Wonderful.
So
yeah, thank
you. You review the legal pack with the auction properties, and you need to make sure there's a whole bunch of documents that you need to make sure actually are there. to
Okay.
satisfy yourself that you've got all the information, because is it 14 days or is it 28-day completion? Do you know?
This one, I think, is 14 days. So it's quite a quick turnaround on this one.
14 days completion, which means that you need to make sure you put your funds ready for
Yeah.
that when it completes, because have you ever purchased a property before?
No, so this is why I wanted to come into the group and advise. I've always done my purchases through the conventional way through estate agents.
Karen,
Okay, so Michael,
if you send me your number, I'll give you a call tomorrow and run you through all of that.
Amazing. Thank you, Paul.
You're going to need to bridge to purchase that. 60 years left on the lease will be alarm
Right.
bell.
Okay.
Send me your number and I'll speak to you tomorrow. I can run you through all of that. Limited company, right classification codes, bridging.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
what I was going,
Yeah. Perfect.
I was going to invite Michael to talk us through a little bit about what to look out for on an auction property, because I'm sure that will be valuable to others on the call as well. Michael, I know you're on the call. Are you on mute? Could you kindly unmute yourself and just really give us an overview of what are the key things?
Michael's battery died. He's not on the call. He dropped off.
Ah, right. Okay. In which case, we won't get Michael to do that. So, Paul, do you want to do that, or is that a specific to Michael? So I think you've purchased in auction.
Sorry, purchasing in the auction. I think.
Yeah, have you put? I think
you've picked up the points. The number of days to completion. So it's normally 28 days.
Mm-hmm.
If they've shortened it to 14 days again, alarm bells will be ringing.
Alarm girls, right.
But that doesn't mean it's a bad deal. It's just you've got a shorter period to get everything done. You would almost certainly have to use bridging finance if you're not buying for cash. Hannah's right about the legal pack and any little clauses that they put in there. Sometimes you've got to pay the auctioneer's fee. Sometimes you've got to make a contribution to the seller's legal costs. But the number of days to completion is the main thing you want to look out for. Now, other than that, we've kind of picked it up.
Yeah, I think the only other thing you need to be conscious of is make sure that you get your solicitor to review it. Get your solicitor to review it, and to make sure that they give you the go ahead, and ask them what is missing from the legal pack. Because if you don't get it right, if you decide to go ahead with it and you don't get it right, it's not going to be very pleasant. So, but the key things are the length of the lease and any major works, and then obviously check the title. And then you might also, have you visited the property yet? Are you happy? Are you happy with where it is?
So so I've done a drive-by, but I haven't been able to go in because they only started doing site visits from Friday. So the site visit that's scheduled for this property is on Saturday.
Oh, okay, this coming Saturday.
Yes, yeah, this coming
Right,
Saturday.
okay, that's that. Yeah, and I presume you've purchased property before, so you have a good idea, I'm imagining, of what to look for when you go and do a site visit. Brilliant. Okay, so I guess let's now look at numbers. So we're going to purchase it for, you reckon, about 150.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What other costs do you know of at the moment?
So from what I've seen just from the online viewing, it's going to need full refurbishment. So kitchen, bathroom. I couldn't see anything structural, but obviously that will come from when we're looking at the site visit and when I'm going through more detail in the legal pack. And it does say that there is a section 42 draft in the legal pack, so I'll be able to have a good look. And now I understand what that is. Thank you. I'll be able to read that.
Can I just also add, yes, I know I'm saying get your solicitor to read it because obviously they have indemnity insurance, but you also need to read it and mark it yourself and ask your solicitor, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? If I don't do that, just really, really ask why, and why again, because there'll be lots of things that are hidden, especially when it's in an auction, that you may just think, oh, that's nothing to worry about. It could be something serious to worry about. So let's just briefly run through the costs then. Refurb, how much do you reckon? Or is it too early to say?
A little bit too early to say, but I think if I can do it all in for 15k, then that's more than, in terms of kitchen, bathroom, and looking at the sizes of them, I think I could comfortably do it for that. But I don't know, having only looked at it from online, I don't know whether it needs windows in terms of, so I can't really tell if it's double glazed or not and what the condition is of the windows. So that would also kind of sway what the refurb costs would actually be.
The cost of,
yeah.
okay. So what, in terms of this, sorry, there's the refurb cost, what other costs do you need to fund upfront?
So in terms of capital costs, so I'd obviously have to think about things like stamp duty, so that would need to be in there. Broker fees. I kind of think that would mainly be, and refurb cost. Is there anything that I've missed? It would obviously be
Valuation fees.
What about this one?
So would that not be in the valuation fees would come as part of all of the mortgage when I'm doing that, because so those fees would all be tied into that when, no?
So here's the thing. With the bridging financing, you would have to use bridging finance on a 14-day.
Okay, because completion.
You've got to pay their valuation fees, and you have to pay their legal fees, and there will be an arrangement fee also for them. And then typically there's no exit fees from the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need to consider. You'd need their legal fees and your own legal fees for the bridging.
Okay.
Anything else?
This is so helpful.
Hannah, potentially the seller's legal cost if it's in the auction pack, if they've put that in as an additional condition. But the bridging finance, you have to pay the lender's legal fees. And the valuation fees on a bridge typically are a little bit more than what you would do on a normal mortgage.
Okay.
Okay, right. Would anyone else like to chip in with any suggestions about this particular deal? Who's got some thoughts about it? What else do people think that we need to know about it?
I would say this: when you're buying in the auction, it says 14 days completion, but there is a bit of slippage in there. Now, usually the standard is they've got to serve a notice to complete, and it gives you an extra 10 days. But sometimes in the special conditions, they'll change that 10 days to 5 days. And the fact that they've already changed the 28 to 14, you need to read that legal pack very, very well. The special conditions clauses is where you need to have a look.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul.
Does
anyone else like to?
All right, well, go on.
Go ahead, Paul.
As for the deal itself, the 100k is the guide price. The 150k would be with the comparables that you would look at would be with a good lease. So you really have to factor in what that lease extension is going to be. And at 60 years, at 70 years, something called marriage value comes into the lease. The closer it gets, the lower it gets.
It's 80 years for marriage value kicks in.
It's 70, but it depends. It's 70 actually. Well, it's 70 as far as I know, because we can still lend above 70 years, Hannah. We can still lend. Yeah, 75-year leases I've done mortgages on, no problem. So at 60 years, the cost of that lease extension, that is going to be your biggest expense. That's probably going to be more than your refurb costs. You have to kind of get some idea on that.
Yeah, and I have to say thank you for that, Paul and Hannah, because when I was doing comparable for looking at prices that had sold in the area, I was obviously not thinking about the lease extension at that time. So, yeah.
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 And then you've got this one to think about.
Okay.
Yeah, because the legal pack for a for conversion is usually done by the management company.
Yeah.
Now you need to check who owns the freehold, whether it's right to manage or whether it's actually run by the management company, or if it's a different freeholder. That's something else you also need to think about. Okay. Would anyone else like to chip in on this? No? Okay, so I guess the question then is, does it sound like a good deal based on what you know, Karen?
Looking at the additional costs that I've now got to take into consideration, I will definitely have to go back and revisit the numbers. I definitely think the lease extension is going to potentially swing the pendulum, but I definitely need to now go back and have another look at the figures. But this has been an invaluable session for me, so already thank you.
That's all right. I'm glad you've got value from it. And I will at the end just invite you to give us some feedback actually on,
Absolutely.
I can't remember if the link is on there, but we'll certainly get that out to you. Okay, so do you have any other questions for us at this point?
Yes, just one more, please, that I was just curious. So if I sell a property through a limited company, are you subject to both capital gains tax and corporation tax?
That's a question for your accountant.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. Thank you.
Because it really
Just out of curiosity.
there's a whole yeah.
If it's held in the
Yeah.
company.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, well, Karen, I hope that's been useful to you. You've said it is, so I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us your deal. Has anyone else on the call got any other deal that they want us to briefly look at? I'm going to go to 15:15 maximum is when we're going to finish, because we like to keep these nice short and sweet to 30 minutes really, but because of the technical issues at the beginning, that's why I'm going to go to 15:15. No other questions? Please put something in the chat if you've got anything that you want me to briefly give you some feedback on, or if you want to invite anyone on the call to give you some feedback on. No? Okay, brilliant. I'm going to move forward then. So the plan, the numbers, we've spoken about that. What's your exit for this particular strategy, Karen, this particular property? Are you planning to just buy it and rent it out, or what is that your plan, or are you planning to refurb it and flip it, or what?
So this one is, I would like to buy it and rent it, but obviously if the numbers stack better to flip it, then that's what I will also look as a consideration. But I would like to keep it to restart the portfolio through a limited company or through a business arm as opposed to residential buy-to-let. Yeah.
Brilliant. So thank you very much for sharing that. My screen. I seem to have lost the screen. Okay, not quite sure what's happened to my screen, but not to worry. I'm going to wrap up. Oh, yeah, that's very strange. I'm not quite sure why you can't see my screen. I was just going to really share our contact details with you, but since I can't seem to do that right now, you can contact any of us on either Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, actually it's BPG Instagram, or we're on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any further questions. Okay, so thank you very much indeed for coming and joining the call today, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, and as you can see, Karen brought an auction deal and we were able to help her to think about some other points that she hadn't considered, And so if you have a deal, please bring it to the table next week. We look forward to discussing with you your deals and any other questions or queries you may have in relation to moving you forward on your property journey. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.